I had a viewer ask me a question all about audio, plugins, effects, things like that for voiceover. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to do it right now.
News from the booth!
Hey there, villagers. Welcome back to the VoiceOver Village. I'm Rick McIver, your village idiot. Today's question comes from a viewer, and that question is, what effects are best for voiceover? They're using a DAW and have access to pretty much anything they want, but they're having some difficulty pinpointing the right effects cocktail. What are my suggestions? First, let me say this. Again, I am not a trained audio engineer. There are people in the world that spend years studying this. I've been around a little bit, and so I know what is accepted in the industry and what is absolutely a no-no. Recording and producing voiceover is a lot different than some maybe instruments or singing. Spoken word is a completely different thing. And so where the tendency lies, if you're into music or you're a singer, to add some effects and sparkle and EQ to make it sound and cut through the music and sound really nice and shiny and professional, that's not necessarily the best thing to do for voiceover. What I mean by that is the expectation for voice acting is that there are no effects. You want your audio to sound clean and dry. You don't want to have reverb. You don't want to have delay. You don't want to have any sort of things that distract actually from your voice. Now, that being said, there are some things that you can do to help your voice sound a little better. Again, it shouldn't sound like you've done anything to your voice. As a friend of mine says, it should sound as flat as piss on a rock. So what can you do? Well, there's a couple of things. First, start with a really great acoustic environment. So if I had $100 to spend on making my voice sound better, I would spend 90 of it on treating my environment, because that's going to make a huge, huge difference. If you are new to voiceover and audio production, stay far, far away from trying to do any compression, any limiting, any normalizing. Don't do any of that. Just send your audio out as is, because the more you process it, the more it distracts from your performance. And that's what you don't want. So for me, I only really do two main things to my audio. Well, maybe three, depending. The first is downward expansion. And basically, the goal of that is to lower my noise floor in my booth. It's pretty low as it is, so I only need a touch. But like I said before, every little bit helps. The second thing I do is an EQ. And my EQ is very, very minimal. My booth is in the basement, so I really only have to worry about low frequency kind of rumbling sounds. That could be the HVAC or maybe a truck passing by outside, sometimes a lawnmower. But really only what gets through for me is that low end. So I just roll off the low end on my EQ. I just let it just kind of down at the bottom, just a slight gentle roll off on that. I like to have just a little bit of air in my voice. Nothing mid-range, but just a little high, mid-high frequencies. But that's not true for every voice. The best thing you can do is record your voice in your environment, speaking a couple sentences just at the right volume level, record it and save it as a WAV file, and then send it to Tim, or you could send it to George Whittam. He's really good at this too. And they will analyze your voice in your environment. And what happens is that they can make EQ adjustments to kind of take out any things that you don't want, any artifacts, things like that. Now, I said there's a third thing that I do, and that is I use a plugin called Izotope. And Izotope is really good about taking out mouth noise. This stuff, yeah, that is mouth noise, clicks and things in your mouth that just make noise. And I happen to have a weird nasally click that's way, way inside my head in addition to the mouth noise. So this plugin is actually really helpful for me because of that extra mouth noise that I have. And that's really it. There's no reverb. There's no extra sweetening. I don't adjust my EQ based on what sound I'm trying to do. The casting directors want an accurate representation of your voice. They're interested in, can you tell this story? And is your voice right for this project? And they can only tell that if you send them audio that hasn't been messed with a whole bunch. So the only things I do, in recap, a little downward expansion to get rid of some rumble. I use isotope elements to kind of get rid of my mouth noise, and a tiny bit of EQ to also get rid of the rumble and add just a little bit of air in the high end. And that's it. So I really recommend recording a WAV file of you talking in your environment, sending that sample out to an expert, and then they can help set your stack up so that it eliminates any environment problems and helps sweeten your voice just enough, not a lot, but just enough that it can make a big difference. I hope this has been helpful. If you want to watch some more videos about voiceover and YouTube and geek out a little bit like I do, check these out. Thanks again for watching. Until next time.